Hello and welcome to another That's Just Wild Q&A, where we take on your burning questions about nature and wildlife. I'm Steve Backshall, and as always, I'm joined by...
Me, Lizzie Daly.
And me, Sarah Roberts.
Right. We should probably address where we are right now. Different scenery today.
We could do that.
Yeah.
Your garage, aren't we?
It's gaff.
We called it the gym. It sounds much better if you call it the gym, doesn't
No,
it?
I think we should call it a palace.
I mean,
Palace.
Because I want to move in.
It is bigger than your average apartment, this garage, to be fair.
It's fabulous.
We're not calling it a garage, we're calling it a gym. It's a gym, all right?
Okay, well, we're in the gym. And,
Yes.
I have to say, this is a beautiful location where
Thank
you
you
live.
so much.
It's brilliant. We've got the ocean. Obviously, you can't see it, but literally to our left and to their front view, it's like you've just got an open ocean at the wild Atlantic.
We can see the Isles of Scilly on a clear day.
Come on.
And these amazing huge waves rolling in that Lizzie from this height remarked as, oh, there's some cute little waves as well there.
Yeah, and
Probably
I
like
said,
10
well, they're about 5 meters high. They would
Cute
kill
to me
you.
being like... Right, let's get into it. So our first question is for you, Steve. It's from Spencer Wright via email. I have been enjoying learning more about animals around the world while listening to the show. I run in a wildlife refuge right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
I'm pretty sure he runs a wildlife
As in-
refuge. It might be that he runs in a wildlife refuge, which would be a better story.
I'm
I
looking
don't,
at the offline
does he go
script.
for a run? I mean, you guys like to run. He might like to run.
In
Yeah,
a
he
wildlife
might run.
refuge.
It's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I would,
Yeah.
unless there's big predators, that is.
Okay, well, you might run a wildlife refuge or you run in one, but great, good on you. Right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the United States, which is full of wildlife. I was very excited a few weeks ago when I saw my first beaver. These populations appear to be growing in Pennsylvania. I understand they're considered a keystone species, but could you explain what qualifies certain species to be designated a keystone species? I find the concept a difficult one to understand, as it seems all animals are crucial to the ecosystem in which they live. Thank you very much and keep up the great work, Spencer.
Terrific question. I mean, that sounds like a Lizzie question to me, doesn't it? I mean, that's
I
like a
the
proper
way you
biology
deferred.
nerd.
Yeah, I would. Why
But
not?
I'm not going to defer. I'm going to answer it
I
myself
could talk
anyway.
about it, but please, you go for it.
So a keystone is, as I understand it in architecture, the last stone that's put into an arch which supports the whole weight of the whole building. Without the keystone, the whole thing would collapse. So you are correct that all animals have a place in the environment, but a keystone species is one without which that environment does not function or functions in a completely different way. So beavers, yes, are an absolute classic keystone species because you have beavers and they create their dams, which create little wetlands, and the wetlands create invertebrates, and that totally transforms the whole habitat. We've talked about a few times before about Yellowstone and wolves. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put you guys on the spot and I'm going to ask you to come up with a keystone species. While you think about it, I am going to give what I think is my favorite example, which is we did an amazing series in Monterey Bay in California a few years back. And Monterey Bay is this place that has had the most extraordinary return of wildlife after protection. And one of the most amazing things that nobody really understood until this happened was that sea otters had been hunted out in the area. They've been hunted out for their fur. And without the sea otters, the bay was essentially a dead place. You know, there's a lot of fishing and other stuff going on, but the lack of the sea otters had made a difference nobody understood until they came back. And they came back, it seems, naturally. And when they did, they started scoffing things like abalone and urchins, and the urchins eat the kelp and they eat the base of the kelp. So when the sea otters came back, the kelp forest flourished. And when the kelp forest flourished, all the things that live in them flourished, and the bay transformed. The whole look of it changed due to one animal, which, you know, it's not got masses of population. It's not like there are millions of sea otters, but their arrival and their appearance had a complete transformative effect on the environment. So Sarah, I'm putting you on the spot. Give me a keystone species.
The easiest one for me to quote would be salmon, specifically in Great Bear Rainforest on Canada's west coast, because the salmon are not only fed on by the bears, but by the eagles, by seals, your otters as well, but also even deer, who are generally vegetarian have been found with salmon in their poo. And the trees around the edge of the river are also that much bigger and stronger because of all of the nutrients that comes from those bits of mangled salmon and salmon poo that all ends up all around the edge of the river.
All that nitrogen, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
all the
beautiful.
nitrogen. Yeah, so if you were to lose the salmon, then not only would that be absolutely horrendous for your grizzly bears who rely on that source of protein to get those big fat layers to be able to hibernate through winter, but it would also have a big effect on all of the other species that also rely on that nutrients before winter, and it would even affect the trees. Crazy.
Yeah. I'm actually going to stick to the Pacific Northwest because the Keystone predator theory originated from a guy called Robert T. Payne. Not T. Payne that me and you know, Sarah. Do you know T. Payne? The
Tom
singer?
Payne. No?
T-Pain was like a rapper. Anyway, 1969, this theory actually came from starfish and how the removal of the starfish from the subtidal areas led to the mussel populations just booming and destroying the whole ecosystem. So, you know, we're all sticking to similar part of the world here, but you see it across the world, don't you, with a variety of species. And I think this question's interesting because actually over time people have questioned, you know, are we actually allowed to call as many keystone species because there's lots of other kind of categories which fit into that. You know, you could argue that pollinators are keystone species, but they kind of are mutualistic and they support lots of other, you know, everything in that kind of wider ecosystem as opposed to being like one specific species. So it's been not hotly debated. And there's clear examples like we've all given today, but it's just an interesting question and a great way of thinking.
I do think, though, as humans, naturally, we are completely speciesist. Do you not think? Like, we always have our... Well, we do have our favourites and the species I think that we can empathise with or sort of see a little bit of human traits in them. We are first to notice, but like those insects, like you say, the pollinators, the things going on under the soils, like our worms, they have a huge effect, but they're so much smaller and we don't notice when they're gone as quickly as we might a wolf or a bear or something else. So it's a tricky one.
Can I just throw this in there? Because from what I remember of when I learned about keystone species is it can't be something that's omnipresent. It can't be something that of which there are multitudes, billions, trillions. It needs to be something like the wolves in Yellowstone, like beavers. Thing. Not rare, but it's something that has a disproportionate effect on its environment. Yeah, exactly. As I understand it, I might not be right about that.
No, you're exactly right. And that's why if you look at the mass of pollinators around the world, like you could argue that the benefit they have in terms of that kind of cascade of an effect and a positive effect, they do support so much of life. But you're absolutely right. It's that kind of singular individual species or a few species which lead to that positive effect.
Yeah, there's no bees making dams anytime soon, I don't think.
Absolutely. Can I say as well that, you know, I think it speaks volumes that you say T-Pain and I think the legendary French revolutionary who was an activist and drove on the French Revolution. And you both think rapper.
T-Pain. What did he sing, Sarah? What was his famous song? Wait, can we quickly look that up?
Isn't it not back in the days of Usher and all of the big... You know, like
I want to buy you a drink. That one.
Can I say Usher?
Can you keep
Usher
going?
is not
keep
a
going.
rapper.
Steve doesn't know.
I want to buy you a drank. That's what it's called.
Oh, a drank.
With a U instead of a...
How foolish of me to have missed it. Now, for you, Sarah, this question from Tyler Mullender via Instagram. Hi, guys. I hope you're all well. Thank you very much, Tyler. If all animals could suddenly talk, which species do you think would reveal the most shocking secrets about humans and why? ? I absolutely love the pod.
That's cool.
There's so many answers to this. And to be quite honest, like for myself, the one that I would hate to talk openly about me is like literally right next to me right now.
This wolf dog sat in the studio.
I've got Yamba, my dog, just lying at my seat right now. He knows far too many intricate secrets about my life.
He's seen you cry many a time.
Oh God, he's seen behind the scenes of all sorts, different relationships, everything. He'd have so much much dirt on me, that dog. But as a species, it's such an interesting question because you've got the obvious ones, haven't you? Like the pigeons that are just everywhere, watching, seeing all the dirty dealings in the middle of the city.
Urban pigeons would be great.
Pigeons, and then you've got your rats because there's always you're never that far away from a rat. I guess my brain takes me again to your worms and to your creatures that live below the surface because, well, it's a bit dark, isn't it? But I'm just thinking about everything that we don't think about as humans ends up below the surface, like our rubbish, our trash, everything that gets buried there, but also like dead things, humans over time, the history. I just think,
they're like talking to people who've died across history.
Well, like, wars, everything like that. These are the ones that like break down. I mean, not necessarily a worm, but like the creatures under the soil that are there sort of breaking down all of our garbage, all of our mess. I'm sure they'd have an awful lot to say about us.
Like a judgment.
Judgy. I'm sure there's animals that might really like us. I think Yamba generally likes his life, but
I'd say cats and dogs definitely are up there.
I was going to say cats. So I definitely think that cats, if they could talk, would say, we have utter contempt for you as humans. You are our slaves, and we are plotting the downfall of the planet and how we will take over from you all. And while you're at it, get me some food, stroke me, but receive no affection.
I was literally going to say, my cat back home, he generally already does talk, and although it's a meow, I know exactly what he means. It's literally like ham. He just sits over the fridge, like he's not content with cat food. He's realised humans eat through the fridge. And so he sits like as close to it as possible, like a Labrador dog.
Yeah, royal cat. Can I tell you a story? I met a cat the other day in Cornwall, like just sat on this desk because I walked into this building.
Met a cat.
And honestly, it was like a greeting. This cat didn't even belong to this leisure centre. And I walked in, and she just sat there staring at me. And I got talking to the guy there.
She asked for your pass. Can I see some ID, please?
Yeah. What are you doing? You're not from round here. And he told me the story about the cat in lockdown being locked in a container for 3 months. No one realised.
How did it survive?
It ate the person who was inside.
Apparently, it survived off spiders and condensation, and it's still thriving and still alive today. And this cat, looks just fabulous. And to your point, looks like it knows a lot about the people around him.
Yeah. That's not a cat. that is a wizard in disguise.
Yeah, they are plotting our downfall, but they do have incredible weaknesses. So I'm sure they're processing us with every single thought and what they're going to do and how they're going to bring us down. And then you dangle a little mouse in front of them, and they go, "Ooh, little mouse!"
Instinct.
It does make you think, though, because the Egyptians used to revere cats. They were privy to all of the secrets, and all of that knowledge kind of disappeared, didn't it, for a few thousand years afterwards, like how we built the pyramids, how we did the rest of it. Maybe they're not actually
sentient
cats.
Maybe they're
maybe aliens.
Maybe they're dogs in cat suits.
Oh god. Okay, so on for the next question. Now we've gone real deep. So all right, Lizzie, our question for you is from Max Howell via Instagram, and it is: bees and spiders use electromagnetic forces to their advantage. Is this a clue that a lot of animals have hidden sensory abilities that we still don't understand?
Ooh. I love this question. I think this perhaps comes from our previous discussions around the research that I did around electroreception in terrestrial species. And I went on a bit of a wormhole with this because I didn't kind of answer the question. I just kept on thinking about what could be for us versus the animal kingdom, because our view of sensory systems and the fact they're hidden, simply because they're not, they're in our context, the fact that we use, sight so brilliantly in our everyday means that we consider things like, infrasound and the ability to detect heat and the ability to detect the Earth's magnetic fields as like a hidden thing. Okay, so there's two things to this. I think there's a lot we don't know about the senses we're already aware of, those hidden senses, some of which I've just mentioned. But then I also think how many senses we perhaps don't use as much, but still potentially could have residual, an ability to actually use these senses. Steve, you talked about the ability to echolocate and how if you actually just tune those senses in, you can really work them and you can grow them. And things like, there was a study that was looking at whether humans still have that ability to detect Earth's magnetic fields, which I thought was quite interesting. There was also a really cool study being done by the National Institute of Health, it's looking at interoception. So it's looking how your nerves are connected to your organs and how they communicate. And if we can kind of train them and grow the ability to be able to train them to help with autoimmune diseases and things like that. So
is this like that whole thing about everything, almost everything I feel comes back down to a gut health?
Yeah. And
Because-
actually having a gut feeling. I mean, one sense we never talk about, chronoception, the sense of passing time. That is apparently a legitimate sense that we have.
That's really interesting. I have a very, very defined sense of time. If I set an alarm for 6 a.m., I will wake up at 5:55, even though I
quite good
normally
at
wake
that
up
as
at
well,
7.
actually.
And a really interesting thing
Regularly.
was all the time. But Aldo, you know Aldo Kane that I did all my expeditions with, he did an experiment where he was put into a darkened room that removed all sensory input and all of your circadian rhythms and everything for
Like
about
a
4 or
cat in a
5
bin.
days. Like a cat in a bin, exactly. And it span that out.
Really?
Yeah, it really did. And I've got quite a good natural compass as well. I can usually tell you where north is pretty accurately.
And if you were dropped in the middle of nowhere, not in the middle of nowhere, but if you're on a shoot and you're hiking for a few kilometres and need to get back to where you started, can you do that?
Reasonable,
Yeah.
reasonable. And I know people who are extraordinary at it,
Yeah.
who just have an unbelievable natural ability to tell direction, a natural ability to tell the points of the compass, that sort of thing. But there are individuals that have super developed senses, like you say, like sense of smell is a classic one. Hypersomnia or something like that, I think is the word for it. And quite often they end up being sommeliers, or they end up working with particular kinds of coffee and stuff like that. But their sense of smell, which is particularly linked to memory, the olfactory nodes and memory are very closely linked apparently, can be super hyper developed in some people.
And after, I did that master's research on arthropods, so I was looking at ladybird larvae, but of course we know that spiders balloon using this sense and lots of other terrestrial species use it too. I think it kind of made me start to think, well, what charge do we have? Everything has a certain charge and a signature, if you like, of an electric signal. And perhaps we're just not utilising that. Have you ever been in a room and felt like someone's behind you and then you turn around, they are?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's because of electrosensitivity.
It's that stalker you've been talking about, Lizzie.
Yeah.
They are there.
It's because I'm being stalked.
But there's also
it's interesting.
there's that whole theory that if you think about someone enough, then it's almost telepathy, then you might get a phone call from them, or you think of someone immediately before the phone rings and it's them.
Yeah.
And
We are going down a whole different wormhole now.
But the one thing that I do want to
We are.
say on this though that's like kind of freaking me out a little bit is have you guys heard of Elon Musk's Neuralink?
Oh, God.
Yeah, because like you were saying about all these crazy sensors that animals have. I mean, on the one side, really kind of cool that he's developed something that may be able to bring back vision for people that have lost their eyesight. On the other hand, really freaking me out with all the extra things he's thinking of adding into that, such as like the ability to see infrared, ultraviolet, radar wavelengths.
How is he doing that?
Cyborgs. It's all cyborgs, obviously.
Oh my
I don't
God.
know. I don't know.
Back to the animal kingdom, I think it's absolutely, we've covered a lot of different sensory systems and types there. I absolutely believe that there's so much more that we don't know about. We may not be finding, brand new sensors left, right and centre, but the ones we do know about, I wonder how much more we'll go into that through research and new tech, not Elon Musk's tech, but other tech available. Let's move on. Final question for you, Steve, is from Tom Dunn via Instagram. How do animals that seem pretty useless survive in the wild, i.e. my crested gecko who bites leaves or guinea pigs? He bites guinea pigs. Interesting. How did evolution decide that?
So, Tom, if I was an evolutionary biologist, if I was a Darwinist, then I would say, if it doesn't work, it'll disappear eventually. If it doesn't work, it's not going to persist. It must have some function. It must, in some way work. Otherwise, evolution would eventually just select it out of existence. A lot of the animals that people talk about as being useless, things like sloths and giant pandas and koalas, which have a very, very fine niche and appear to give so little to their environment. Well, if you break it down, you start studying it. Sloths being a classic example. Sloths are so much more common and so much more successful than you would ever know until you start really breaking them down. By biomass, they're probably the most common mammal in a rainforest environment.
A panda's actually undercover Keystone species.
Debatable.
Debatable, but you could make a very good point from the fact that with only 1,000 odd pandas left, that maybe they are kind of being selected out, that they are they are on their way out. They had a very, very fine niche. That niche is disappearing. You could make that point as well. But it is difficult because there are so many species around that seem to be useless in a world that is changing so fast because of us. But simply put, eventually the challenges of life will be too much for a species that is not equipped for its niche and for its habitat and for its environment. And because those things are changing so fast now, that is why our baseline extinction level event has gone through the roof, is that it's just been too much for so many different species that are just now absolutely vaporizing, disappearing. I did find one creature that even science at present cannot figure out what the hell it's for. It's called Symbion pandora. And it's a microscopic invertebrate which lives on the mouth parts of lobsters. It was only discovered in 1995. Its purpose or benefit to the lobster is unclear. And scientists consider it a living curiosity because no one knows what the hell it's for. So there you go.
I love that.
Yeah.
So can I just clarify? You are saying that his crested gecko will die because he's useless?
Well, his crested gecko is in captivity, so that is not a natural situation. Evolution is not selecting on the animals that we are, keeping on the chickens that we're keeping in their billions.
It's true.
I mean, it's a whole different thing, isn't it?
It is.
But his particular crested gecko, if it was in a wild population of crested geckos, and his was one that got born with a genetic trait that made it only nibble leaves as opposed to bugs, yes, it would die. It wouldn't make it to adulthood. I mean, I hope that
we've answered your question.
your crested gecko's rubbish.
But I'm sure very characterful and well loved.
Oh, that's funny. Right, that's it for this week. As always, please send your questions along to questions@that'sjustwild.com and we'll answer them on the show. That's Just Wild is an original Fresh Air production. The producers are Eva Higginbotham and Emma Crampton. Your support is really welcome. You can follow us on your favourite podcast app. Please do leave a review. It makes a massive difference to the whole team. And for ad-free listening, our newsletter, special deep dive episodes and members-only benefits, you can subscribe to us at that'sjustwild.com.
Remember, we're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of those apps at That's Just Wild Pod. Thanks for listening. See you next week.
Hey guys, it's Lizzie here. I've got some really exciting news. I'm hitting the road with a brand new live theatre tour, A Wild Evening. I'll be joined by some incredible legends of wildlife TV, Michaela Strachan, Hannah Stitfall and Megan McCubbin. We'll share our behind-the-scenes stories of some of our wildest TV moments, from unforgettable adventures around the world to close encounters right here at home. It's going to be an inspiring, hilarious and heartwarming night, and you won't want to miss it. We're doing 3 nights only, 23rd of November in Guildford, the 24th of November in London, and the 25th of November in Cambridge. Tickets are available now at awildevening.co.uk. So if you're ready to laugh, feel inspired, and get completely immersed in nature, come and join us for A Wild Evening. I can't wait to see you there.